Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Oliver. Now today's video is going to be a topic that I wanted to discuss for a while, but I wasn't quite sure how to address it. So fair warning, today's video is going to be a bit more stream of consciousness than my other videos, but I think all my vlogs are like that. However, just you've been forewarned. Alright, now today we're going to talk about the ocean, and I love the ocean. It's one of my core aesthetics when it comes to my musical projects, but also it's something that I think just from growing up in Florida and living in Tokyo, and specifically living close to the coast, that I really, really like. Now, I do have thalassophobia, so I'm afraid of the ocean, but I do like the aesthetics of the ocean. I love it so much. In fact, I even had a band called I Was the Ocean once. Actually, so hold on. I have a post-hardcore project called I Was the Ocean once, and then I had a band called The Ocean and I. So I love the ocean. In fact, if you look here, I think you can see there's a, oh my goodness. There's a tattoo right here of an ampersand with the ocean. That was the I Was the Ocean. That was the Ocean and I logo. In fact, I think I have it over here too. You can kind of see it right there. All right, yeah, ampersand with an I and the ocean in it. Yeah, pretty fresh tattoo. It has held up quite nicely after all these years because bold will hold. But anyways, today we're going to talk about why I love the ocean and why I like the aesthetic and what it means to me, essentially. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Here we go. Point number one. Point one. The ocean has no urgency. So, nothing about the ocean is asking you to hurry. And I think for me, as someone who had ADHD for so long, who finally got medicated last year, there was always this kind of serene calmness to the ocean that really resonated with me because I did not have that serene calmness in my mind. So, for example, waves, they come whether you're ready or not. And there is no next step. It's just this loop of waves and water lapping up against the shore. And this rhythm and this, I guess, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Expectation, system, format. I guess this constant loop and rhythm of how things are going to just, consistently it's the same. It doesn't change. The waves, they come. There's tides, but essentially just waves coming up against the shore. And that for me was very calming and very soothing. And I think more than like a life lesson, like things will be okay or something like that, it was more of just, the calmness and the peace of the ocean and the stillness, but also movement of the ocean that really helped me to just calm down, just relax. Like I'm drawn to that. I can sit on the beach or I can go to the harbor or the port and I can just stare at the ocean for hours. In fact, my wife and I have this spot that we go to around where we live where we just go and we just watch the ocean. And it's kind of like a port side view of the ocean. It's not necessarily the beach, but we do have a beach that we go to as well. And yeah, we'll go out there, and it's kind of a trek to get there. Like, it's not super inconvenient, but it's just on the edge of being convenient and inconvenient. And yeah, we'll go out there and we'll hang out there for, hours and just talk, and we'll have snacks and just watch the ocean because it's just calming. In fact, I think if I had like one day left to live, I would like to spend that time with my wife watching the ocean and just talking about life because that's how calming and how soothing that aspect of the ocean is to me. Like, it's just time feels unmeasured. You can, whether it's 10 minutes or whether it's 5 hours, there's no rush. There's no sense of urgency like this has to happen right now. You just sit, you take your time, you just let the waves kind of take you away. And it's great for fostering conversations. It's great for fostering thoughts and ideas. There are times I'll go to the ocean by myself and I'll think of song ideas. I'll think of song lyrics. I'll think of titles. I'll think of key changes. In fact, even if I can't get to the ocean, I might chuck something on YouTube like that, like an ocean background, and just zone out and think. I mean, there's a very popular reason why you have bathrooms that are designed after the ocean. So you can, dream about calmness and drift away while you do your business. Or, there are a lot of reasons as to why you might have, I guess, the ocean as a very popular aesthetic because it is quite calming. And yeah, I think I've said enough about that. The ocean is great. No urgency, calming, very zen, shall we say. Point 2. The ocean is bigger than my anxiety. So for me, One of the things that I like about the ocean, if we go back to waves, is that it's so vast. Like when you're on the shore or when you're on the beach, you see the waves lap up against the shore. However, those waves probably started thousands of kilometers or miles away in the middle of the ocean. Or maybe they started from another coast and they've come all the way to where you are. Now, in the scheme of things, as a tiny human watching that, it makes me feel so small and insignificant that I can kind of let go of my worries for a moment in time. For example, well, not for example, but on a related note, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the ocean. That's how vast the ocean is. Also leads to my thalassophobia because the further we go into the ocean, the more creepy qualities we discover. That's another point. What I'm trying to say is that when I'm next to the ocean, when I'm listening to the ocean, when I'm looking at the ocean, my thoughts, they don't necessarily disappear, but they spread out. And I think that's almost kind of like a good metaphor for life, whereas things don't disappear completely, but they do spread out. And you can handle whatever life throws at you. Now, let's say things don't disappear. So, yeah, so for example, we're all going to have bad days. It can't be all rainbows and sunshine and ocean waves every day. However, there are some bad days that will be one and done. But as you get older and you become more resilient, when the bad days come back around, it's just kind of spread out. And you've been here before, so you know how to handle it. So for me, thinking of it like that things don't disappear, they just spread out, that kind of leads to me fostering a sense of resilience inside of myself, that I can handle whatever happens with life. It's like the shore. Waves, they just keep coming. And the shore, the shore takes them. The shore is the shore. The waves are the waves. Everything has a part to play in life. And the same thing with, good and bad days and different experiences. Everything has a part to play that helps you to learn as you progress through this journey of life. Perhaps I'm just thinking too deeply about that. I don't know. I think it might be the ocean background in the background. But yeah, but also I think when it comes to the sound, like the noise of the ocean, for me, I found that, and even now, the sound of the waves, the sound of the ocean, it kind of masks my internal chatter. So like if I have so much on my mind, if I'm worried about something, whether it be my day job, whether it be family issues, whether it be, music, like, oh, I just can't think of lyrics for the song, or I have this song, but I can't necessarily think of a way to finish it. I can just take all that to the ocean. And it's not as if I need to go to the ocean to find a solution for my issues. I can go to the ocean to just get a break because all I have to do is just not even listen to music, just sit down, look at the waves, and listen to the ocean and just let the sound of the waves kind of wash away all my internal chatter. And yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things about the ocean and about water because like you could be by a babbling brook and kind of have that noise kind of wash your internal dialogue, internal stress away. But it's just this constant natural sound of the waves that without you even really knowing it, without me even really recognizing it in the moment, I find myself calming down. I find myself being more at peace, and I find myself being ready to come back to these thoughts later and hopefully find a solution to whatever it is that ails me at that moment in time. But at the same time, you don't have to resolve anything. like like I said before, I don't necessarily go to the ocean. I don't go to the beach for answers. I go just to get outside of my head and take a break. And that's the beauty of it. Now, once again, it doesn't have to necessarily be the ocean. It can be a babbling brook. It can be a river. It can be a stream. Just, I think for me, that any moving bodies of water, or even like a lake, because there are sounds in the lake, like there's a wave still lap up against the shore. I think I'm not sure how. It depends on the size of the lake. But anyways, most bodies of water in motion have a soothing rhythm and a sound to them that can help the human brain, or at least in my opinion, help the human brain kind of just get out of your head and just calm down and de-stress. Point 3. The ocean doesn't need meaning. So for me, again, this kind of ties into point 2, and I guess why I love the ocean in general, but it's that pure presence without interpretation or need for interpretation. The ocean just is. So I think I kind of lost myself a bit in point 1, trying to make it a bit symbolic and giving it meaning. But the ocean doesn't really have any meaning unless you give it. for example, there is actual meaning to the ocean. We need it for our ecosystem. We need it to serve its function on Earth as a planet, as the environment. There are environmental reasons for why the ocean's here. But it's not symbolic unless you make it symbolic. And I think there's a beauty to that. You can try to justify why you like the ocean. I can try to justify why it calms me down. I can try to look for meaning in nature. However, whether or not I can give the ocean meaning, it's still going to do its job. It still exists. It's still going to calm me down. It's just, I think as a human, we want to find meaning in nature. But we want to find meaning or symbolism in nature, shall I say. But there's no symbolism to the ocean unless you give it to it. And even if you don't give the ocean any symbolism, it's still calming. I think just naturally as humans, with the way our brains have evolved and the way our brains work, it's very, very hard to not be calmed by the sound of the ocean. Perhaps the sight of the ocean might freak you out. For example, for me, I love to go on cruises and things of that nature, but I don't like to look outside the window at nighttime. There's something that induces panic inside of me about seeing just the empty ocean and no land in sight. That is terrifying. But if I were to close my eyes, the sound of the ocean outside of that context still calms me down. There's no symbolism to the ocean unless you give it symbolism. And I think that ties into the next little mini thought I have about this point, which is that there's no lesson and there's no takeaway. For example, again, if I go to the ocean to think, I'm not going to find answers. I'm not going to resolve my issues. I'm going to just simply be, but be in a less stressed out state of being. I just want to loosen my thoughts, drift away, listen to the ocean, and then maybe somehow along that journey, I might find the answer I was looking for. Now, it's not because of the ocean, but it is in part due to the ocean allowing me to just be loose with my thoughts, as opposed to me being pent up at home or someplace else trying to force an answer that I might not be ready to either consider or accept. Yeah, and to tie back to the first mini part of this part, the ocean is just sound and motion. And I think that's kind of the thing I want to really walk away with from this video, that I want to impart upon you if you're watching this video. The ocean is just sound and motion. And it is it's amazing how simple those things are, but how impactful they can be. It's just sound and motion. That sounds so simplistic. That sounds so underwhelming. But the impact that can have on your psyche and your mental health when you're stressed out is amazing, because sometimes you don't need answers. Sometimes you don't need complex, rigid structure to help you along when you're trying to think of answers. You're stressed. Sometimes you just need super simple, basic sound and motion. Sound and motion. So you can get lost in that sound and motion, and it will distract you from your issues that you're going through. It gives you a breather. It gives you a space to take a break. It's like a hamster wheel for your mind, but instead of you physically taxing yourself, you can just sit back and just let the sound and motion of the ocean take you away. And I think that's something that in this increasingly busy world where you've got advertisements, you've got AI slop, you've got insane news. Sometimes it feels like we're living in bizarre world. Whether or not you live in America or Japan, just no matter where you are in the world right now, just the most insane timeline is what we're living in. And I think we could all benefit from a bit of sound and motion to distract us from what's vying for our attention at every 5 seconds of the day, and just allow us to get back in touch with nature and the tranquility that comes from nature, so we can be ready to take on the world in this super, super crazy timeline that we're living in. Ugh, I kind of went off the rails there, but I do think that all connects. But basically, I love the ocean, and those are the 3 reasons as to why I really like the ocean, and how the ocean plays a very important part in my life when it comes to calming down and getting ready to approach different issues or tackle different problems without necessarily getting specific answers on how to do that. Again, I guess the theme of today's videos is sound in motion. Sound in motion. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
I have nothing else to say.